Hello, hello, welcome to Revelator Alf. It's a radio podcast thing, don't you know? Welcome to, well, it's 5:30 on a Thursday early evening. A little bit later than advertised, but what can I say? I had a few deals to do. Do you know what I mean? I had a few things to do. No, I had to go to the train station, pick up my lad, for the returning conquering hero from a day out in the smoke. Anyway, so it was a little bit delayed for that reason. But hey, listen, we're here now. Glad you can join. So today's show is, I'm going to be digging into the notion that Harley Davidson are only going to be able to sell their motorcycles to, well, what are we calling them? High quality consumers. High quality consumers. And this is pretty much what I've read in a story. Well, not a story, a financial report. I want to clarify that. It's a financial report. And I want to kind of dig down into what people think about companies, not just like Harley Davidson, but it could be Indian, it could be Triumph or BMW or any of the other motorcycle manufacturers that are selling expensive motorcycles. But you could even consider the likes of Ducati or MV Agusta or whomever, right? Is it only for the rich? Is it only for those who've deep pockets? Or as this report that I've read kind of implied, and it's not alone because I've read this on numerous occasions, where it's almost like it's only those deserving, potentially deserving, that have some kind of status symbol, that have some kind of social symbol, social status I should say, that they're the only ones who should be allowed to buy a Harley Davidson or these expensive motorcycles. All the rest of us riffraff are not allowed. We're not allowed. So I'm going to be digging into that. So let us know your thoughts on that. The chat is open. Let us know what's going on there, where you're from, most importantly. Let us know where you're from and what you're up to and what you're listening on and all that kind of stuff. Of course, you can follow along on all the social media channels. You can support the channel via PayPal or Patreon as well. You can go to the website, revelatoralf.com, daily blog posts there, different stories and lots of resources there for you to have a look at for free. There's nothing being charged there as well. But as I say, this I'm constantly updating that with background information there as well. But daily blog posts are still coming out there. So please feel free to go over and visit. Right, so I suppose really we're going to cover a few bits going on in the news first of all. So let's do that, shall we? Let's talk about motorcycling news. Okay. So what I really want to do is get onto a lot of the stories. I'm going to try and skip through them because there are lots and lots of different stories, and I don't want to dig into too much because I do want to have quite an expanded conversation about Harley Davidson, but other motorcycle manufacturers as well. I may touch on another big subject, but depending on the timing here, I may just come back on later on tonight, a lot later, or I might come on tomorrow as well. I've got to watch the football tonight, so it's Italy versus England, Italy versus England. So a big game. So I will be rooting for Italia, by the way, because that's just the way the cookie crumbles, as it were. Right. Anyway, enough of that. Let's just talk about some of the things that are going on in the world. Right. So let me set up the first story here. Okay, so the first thing here is, if you remember, if you watch my channel, maybe a couple of years ago now, I was talking about motorcycle security and tracking devices and everything like that. And at the time, Apple released the AirTags. And also, and actually, you could use these quite effectively, and also compared with other AirTags. And whilst you don't have the same kind of level of tracking capability, it's like a cheap alternative. Here's a guy, Jello Pink from the US, I believe it is, who's kind of, revived that story. Now, bear in mind, go back, if you search your YouTube, let's say, AirTags for motorcycles or cars, there's been hundreds and hundreds of videos made right now. Some funny, some more, trying to test it, how good they are. And I've tested it on my bike or my vehicles, and they work perfectly well. They're not exactly always on point, but it's a much cheaper alternative. So 30 or 40 pounds, dollars, shekels, whatever it is for an AirTag, it's a cheaper alternative, I would say. So, have a look at that. If you're thinking about motorcycle security, or if you're thinking about sort of tracker systems, before you go spend the big bucks on a big motorcycle tracker or a car tracker, try this out. See what you think. Because if it can give you the same logging facility, or where you are, where the vehicle is, then it's great. MJ, hello. Hi, Alf. Mike in Essex. Hello, Mike. Hey, thank you for joining. Okay, so the next story here. Now, I had this come through on the website. Or was it a comment on a YouTube video? Some time ago, and it was about power packs to jumpstart your motorcycle or your car, specifically for Harley Davidsons. This was. And this brand here, Noco, came up, and you can basically buy these for Harley Davidsons. And basically they're quite small, but so big, I suppose. You can put it in your pocket, in your backpack. You can put it in your saddlebags, whatever. And basically, if you've got a duff battery somewhere, or you think you're going to be going somewhere, let's say you're going to be off grid for a little bit, your bike is going to be stationary for a few days, for whatever. You maybe think, do you know what? I need something. So this Noco Boost pack, I believe, is very good, but you have to get the right one for your motorcycle model. There are also, just bearing in mind, that the cables that come with it may not be the right ones. You may have to get adapters to go to the battery. Also, you may have to put on extension cables from the battery terminals to a point on the motorcycle where you can easily access, similar to the the trickle charger connector as well, but you have something just for the booster cables as well. So just bear that in mind. But you got to be careful with which booster pack you get. The connector may not be appropriate. So go online for Noco, the website. Go online, search for your motorcycle or your vehicle in general, and see which is which. The problem with the Softails in particular is that the battery is actually quite sunken down as well, and other motorcycles are the same, where the battery isn't readily available to be able to clip on the crocodile clips of your booster pack or your jumper cables as well. So there is a bit of an issue there. There's always been a bit of an issue. Okay, right, next story here. Again, it's not really a Harley Davidson theme here, but I just saw these as well. Harley Davidson Nightster Heat Shield liners. So again, I'm going to be talking a little bit. I suppose this section is a bit about products as well. But they're saying, well, you can have these extra ones as well, these heat shield liners. I just can't remember off the top of my head whether the Nightster has got heat shields on them or whether it's just a raw exhaust. I don't think so. And whether the Harley Davidson one itself is just not effective enough. So go check this out. This is from Harley Davidson Nightster Heat Shield liners. These liners from DEI insulate the outer DEI insulate the outer heat shield. So this is extra heat insulation that you would put on the heat shields. Okay, that's more the point. So anyway, it's good that there are products out there that you can think, well, I like the heat shield, let's say, but I just don't think it's enough. I want to try and add a bit of extra heat shielding. So this kind of product, and I'm sure there's lots of other products out there which you can buy, which you can just peel off and tape on, and away you go. MJ found this even getting to start a motor on FXLRS. Yes, there are lots of motorcycles. I'm just saying the side of I mean, I had an old oh crikey, what was it? It was an old Kawasaki. It was exactly the same. I've had various bikes exactly the same. It's not just a Harley thing. There's lots of motorcycles that have, I don't want to say a problem, but do you know what I mean? It's kind of an inconvenience. And sometimes when you think about it, let's just call this as it is, right? Sometimes you think about it and you think, hold on, motorcycle designers, manufacturers, surely something like a battery you would design, the housing, the access, to be easy. Now, in most motorcycles that I think this works perfectly, you just lift up the seat, or you take the seat away, and the battery is right there, sitting right on top. When they start coming up with fancy ways or fancy locations for the battery, it might be fancy. It might kind of aesthetically, make everything else work on the bike. But the problem is, it's such a hard place to readily access, let's say, on the side of the road, because that's what you're looking at. Anyway, so that was that one. Here's another story here. Ring, the doorbell company who do lots of other products as well. They've released their new cordless tire inflator. The reason why I kind of always look at these kinds of products, because I think there's so many on the market and some are really duff. And I featured some of these on the channel before, and I still carry them in my backpack as well, or on my saddlebags, I should say. And they work. I've used them a couple of times, so they work fine. But as I say, I always like the small handheld ones that are good to go, but they do take a while to inflate the tire. Some, they say they'll go up to like 100 psi or 150 psi, but they seem to bottom out at about 25 psi. They're not very good at all. Whereas others, the one that I've got, for example, actually does pump it up quite a lot, but it does take a while. But interesting here that I suppose that in my mindset, I'm looking at this thing, right, this Ring tire inflator, and I'm saying, well, hold on a minute. There are so many products on the market, so many mini tire inflators now. Why is this company, Ring, who's quite a big company now, why have they decided to bring out a mini tire inflator? I just don't see the logic. You're going into like a saturated market with a product. Maybe you think your product is even better. It's a 12 volt. It's you can charge it with a USB 12 volt. Yeah, it doesn't say. It doesn't really go much more into that. But there we go. It's from. This is from tirepress.com. So have a look at that if you're interested. Okay, next story here as well. Spada. Spada. I like Spada stuff. I've always have. I don't know why. And I've had a few of their helmets in the past. But so they've got their new collection that's coming out. If you're into Spada, if you like that kind of look, it's a British brand but with an Italian sounding name. I always thought, but there we go. This covers jackets, trousers, jeans, helmets, and more. This is from Visor Down, which has launched a story. I don't think it's much of a story. I think it's more of an advertising campaign, really. That's not a criticism. I think it's just the way it's come out. But I think this is. I suppose I repeatedly say that this time of year is the time of year where lots of motorcycle manufacturers and accessories will be pushing new products or releasing their new lines. Watch out in April, this coming month, next month, or very early May, big announcement from Harley Davidson. Watch out for that. That's all I'm gonna say. MJ, could not even get Caddy off, still watching your vid. Could not even get Caddy off, still watching your vid. Caddy off? Oh, that for the battery compartment, yeah? Yeah, it's a bit of a jiggery pokery, I'll give you that. But it's one of those things, right? Once you've done it, and you think, oh, okay, got it. Then it's like a 15-20 minute job. It's not even that. But it's that first one you're thinking, how do you know what I mean? So, anyway, here's another story here from Alpine Stars as well. These, what I've seen is a lot of these airbag vests that have come onto the market over the last couple of years, 2 or 3 years, and there's more and more on the market. Some seem a bit suspect to me. Others seem all right, but they're really expensive as well. I mean, they're still really expensive. But here's a report on it. This is from Jalopnik as well. Jalopnik as well. Jalopnik.com. And it just goes into it as well, and talk about wearing it right and all that sort of stuff. But so that you're talking about £200-300. I suppose it depends how much you value them and value your injury and all that sort of stuff if you need it. Personally, I don't have one. I'm not the kind of guy who would wear something like this, but I can see the merit on them as well. What I liked, there was a product, I forgot the name. There's a series of safety products that they were starting to make out of recycled material. And whilst I'm not a greeny kind of person, I do appreciate products that are made out of recycled materials. I am one of those people, I'm afraid. Yes, I am. Even though I, drive a pickup, a diesel pickup, and a truck, as I say, and ride a Harley Davidson and love motorcycles, but yeah. Petrol head with a conscience, a green conscience, I would say. Right, okay, here's another story here. Now, this, again, there's a theme here, right? I'm coming on to this product. France, this is from Visordown. France have officially banned corporate greenwashing in 2023. Basically, what this means, go read the story if you're interested, but basically what it's saying is lots of companies and automotive companies, motorcycles, cars, especially EV, electric vehicle companies, tend to try and push the green angle and then say, oh, we're a green car, we're environmentally friendly. And what what's the word I'm looking for? The cynics out there. The cynics, yeah, I suppose I am a cynic, right? We raise our hands and we would go, hold on a minute. They may be green in terms of they're not using any fossil fuels, let's say, for example, in terms of electric vehicles, but they're not green in terms of how they've been produced, how they've been manufactured, where the products have to, be shipped from, all that. So what they're saying in France is that actually, hold on a minute, you've got the manufacturers to claim that something is green, you have to show that at every stage of its manufacture and its sourcing of the raw materials and the transportation, it is green, right? It's carbon neutral. It has to be carbon neutral. In other words, for you to claim that your product is carbon neutral at every stage, and they can't do it. There's no way they can do it. So one of the ways they're doing is they're going to be saying like, okay, hey, carbon offsetting, that offsetting stuff, and basically it just goes into here and how they're going to do it. It's basically going to be going there, but it's very interesting that France do tend to take the lead in these kind of policies, global policies, but calling it out as it is, or just coming up with absurd policies. But here, this is one that I tend to agree with. You can't claim that something is green or carbon neutral when it isn't. When it clearly isn't. You can't say that an electric vehicle is it's an environmentally friendly product when it's not green to produce the vehicle, it's not green to produce the batteries, and it's not green in virtually 99.9% of the cases to generate the electricity to charge the vehicles. It's also not green on the tyres. The tyres, okay, there's another sub-story on that where UK legislation, they're trying to impose a tax on tyres, on the wear of tyres, because of all particulates that it puts into the air as well. So the same way that, you're going to have to pay an increased tax to offset this thing. And then people, they're going to not buy tyres? Of course they're going to buy tyres, it's the way it is, isn't it? But it's just another way of revenue tax. But it's also just demonstrates the absurdity of saying that something is green when it isn't. Although there was a tyre manufacturer the other day, I can't remember. I talked about it briefly on the one of the live shows. But they want to make tyres out of recycled or actual green compound. It's carbon neutral. It's not rubber. It's not synthetic rubber. It's something else. So the beauty of this is that there are more and more manufacturers that are looking at different ways of not only producing their products, but producing them they're green, they're made out of biomaterials or something like that, or they're just carbon offsetting, right? So with that in mind, Yamaha, you can see where the link is here, right? Yamaha motorcycles, or Yamaha the company, as in the umbrella company, have invested this carbon capture investment, and it's in the Andes, a US-based startup researching carbon capture technology as the first investment from its sustainability fund. Go read it. This is all on Visor Down. I don't mean to pick a lot of stories from Visor Down, but it just so happens this series of stories, that's where a lot of them have come from. But I also acknowledge that they have been the same stories have been replicated in other news outlets as well. But I've just picked these, I know, just in case you were wondering. But anyway, it's all about it's all about Yamaha as a company to develop carbon offsetting programs to offset the production of their vehicles. So one of the ways that companies can get around the French ban of, saying something that is carbon neutral or as green machines, let's say, is by actually doing carbon offsetting. And the way that the companies can do it, they can do it on a mass scale, but it's on a global scale, as it were. So they have programs all over the world. So on a global level, they're carbon offsetting, and that offsets, whatever they're producing. So this is not the first company to do this, but Yamaha, Suzuki, and others are looking at ways of different materials. So I talked about green aluminium a couple of weeks ago. The different materials, different sourcing, different ways of, trying to go a little bit greener. Okay, because what they're trying to do is look at the future. There's another little sub-story I'm going to relate to this, a link to this a little bit later on. But it's actually about thinking about the future, in the near future, let's say 5, 10 years, 15 years, and saying, okay, are we absolutely going for the electric vehicle route 100%, or are we going to try and hold on to internal combustion engines? And what will that look like? What would the landscape look like? What would the environmental, the political landscape look like to still allow not petrol, but internal combustion engines? So what I mean by that is, can they have alternative fuels? Can they have synthetic fuels? Or can they ramp up carbon offsetting to such a degree that actually it's still not really, it's not that much of an issue? Do you know what I mean? Okay, so just pay attention, ladies and gentlemen, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Okay, so the next here, and as if by magic, it is by magic, there are 6 European member states set to backtrack on the petrol ban. This is coming in 2035, where they're saying that there's the sales of cars, vans, and in some cases motorcycles as well. They're saying, well, hold on, we don't really want to see it. And the reason is that a lot of these members, a lot of countries now are really looking, and also a lot of not a lot, but a few manufacturers, automotive manufacturers, have piped up in the last few months and raised their heads above the parapets, ready to be shot down by the green activists, as it were. But they're basically saying, well, hold on a minute. Whilst there's electric vehicle movement, and we get it and we appreciate it, and it's a good thing, we're nowhere near ready in terms of infrastructure, in terms of the pressure on the global resources to be able to supply vehicles in that number, and also for people to buy them and to run them and everything like that. So they're saying, well, hold on, we need another plan. We need to be able to an alternative. So here, they're saying, people have kind of been blinkered, governments have been blinkered into this pushing for this green technology and EV route. And this is kind of what we've been saying, yes, the cynics, but maybe those of you out there as well who are watching this program, watching this live show. I think I'm a TV presenter. Crikey, listen to me. But, those of you out there who are saying, okay, yeah, maybe the EV route, the electric vehicle, is a decent one. We know it's coming, right? But let's not, let's just hold on a minute. Let's just talk about this logically. Let's just address the issues. And I think this is what's happening. Maybe the message is starting to get through to a lot of these politicians or lobby groups or, governments around the world now. They're saying, well, maybe they haven't been listening to us, but maybe they're realizing that actually the infrastructure, the way they have to generate power and distribute that power isn't that right? Especially in the terms of global crisis or into energy crisis and stuff like that. They're thinking, what's going on? We need to look at different ways here. So, yeah. But there's lots of talk. This is just one article, but there's lots of contrasting articles out there. If you're into this kind of thing, go reach out, go search it out, of course. Okay, next story here. Oh, I don't know what that is. Hold on. Yeah, so here we go. This is the UK story as well, but it's kind of relevant. Basically, they're saying that safety risks for electric vehicles in particular is a big thing for the UK, because they're proposing to lengthen out the time when you require an annual roadworthiness check, which we call an MOT, in this year. And I think it was from 3. So when you buy a brand new vehicle, you've got 3 years of driving or riding on the road before you require one of these annual roadworthiness checks, like an MOT, what we call an MOT, right? And what they're saying is, because of all the problems and, cost of living, cost rising, and all that sort of stuff, they wanted to extend this out, I believe, to 4 years. Was it 4 years? So the first test to 4 years, and instead of having I think there was another reason. Instead of having an annual roadworthiness check, they wanted to make it a biannual. Is that a biannual? Every 2 years, basically, roadworthiness check. So what they're saying is, actually, this is going to make a lot of suspect vehicles on the road without a test, without some kind of check. But also saying for EV vehicles as well, they're saying that a lot of these vehicles, they need to be checked after 2 or 3 years to make sure that they really are roadworthy, and especially EVs with their batteries as well. And because the batteries are so much heavier, that is putting more, pardon the pun, pressure on the tyres, and that's creating greater wear and tear on those tyres. So if you've got a vehicle that's been on the road for 3 years, well, in 3 years those brand new tyres, well, they should have worn out by now. But one of the reasons why you may want to check your tyres or change your tyres, because you've got this annual roadworthiness check coming up, they may fail, you're going to get your tyres changed. Whereas if it's pushed out to 4 years or 5 years, then there's a risk of people riding around on heavier vehicles because of the batteries, but also on worn out tyres or tyres that are a little bit older, so there could be exploding tyres, that kind of thing. And so anyway, interesting story there. This is from fleetworld.co.uk. But there's been quite a few stories about this recently. Okay, next story here. I'm going to briefly rush over this. I thought it was quite funny. There's this artist, Rachel Clegg. There's an exhibition. She's announced it. It's on Visor Down. Go Visor Down. Go check it out. But she's depicted epic moments in the history of motorsport. Basically, all I can see is her in a country, in the buff, with some motorcycle-related imagery as well. Yeah. What can I say? Go check it out. I'm sure the exhibition is very good. Very good. I do like a bit of art, I gotta say. I do like a bit of art. But there we go. I thought I'd give that a mention, which is interesting. Right, okay. Here's another story. This is Mighty So-Called News now. You're all cheering now. Yay, yeah, it's a different publication. I know. I feel the pain. But here's another story where there is a fast delivery or food delivery company in the UK, Just Eat, and I think they got outlets in other countries as well. But what they want to do, they want to cut down, they want to suspend or cut back 1,700 delivery jobs on motorcycles and scooters and things like that, right? But the reason why I bring this up is because not only, let's say, a month, 2 months ago, I read with a story, or led with a story on one of my live shows, is that because these delivery companies, these little food courier companies, product companies, have really got so popular over the last couple of years, especially through COVID, where the home delivery thing has become ramped up, that meant that there was a much greater demand for motorcycles and scooters. In fact, the body, the not the governing body, but the overarching representative of all these delivery companies was saying, look, the motorcycle manufacturers need to ramp this up. But now you've got one of these companies who was cutting back on that. They're sort of rejigging everything to see that we don't need all these delivery drivers or riders. So obviously it's a big deal. So Motorcycle News, go check that out. Nice little story here from Dan Sutherland there as well. There you go, giving him a little plug. Here is I suppose here's a story here, again from Paul Tang in the Far East. Yeah, this is CF Moto, the Chinese motorcycle manufacturer, which also is just opening up European-based outlets as well. Got a link up with KTM as well, so these motorcycles are coming all over. But this is one of the motorcycle manufacturers we identified a few years ago as saying, just watch out for them, because they're coming out stronger, they're coming out bigger, and they're going to be producing better and better bikes, bikes that look the business, that look cool, but they're going to be competing on technical stuff, aesthetics, performance, handling, braking, everything, but they cost a fraction of the price. So all I'm saying to you, I'm not saying to you that this is a great bike. All I'm saying to you, just always keep an eye out for these kinds of manufacturers, especially from China and India, but especially from China in this case, that are producing bikes that you'll be thinking, hey, that's not a bad bike. That's not a bad bike, right? So So just bear in mind with that. Okay, next story here quickly. This is for the EV company Energica, right? They're also diversifying, and I've noticed this a lot with electric vehicle manufacturers. They're also diversifying and using their technology in other areas as well. Okay, most notably battery charging, battery storage, that kind of thing, electronics. And this is one of the reasons why Harley Davidson, for example, they split off their live wire department, their electric vehicle department that was based in, I don't know, San Jose, Silicon Valley, or wherever it was, and they splintered it off and made it into a separate company, because the company itself can actually start spreading its wings into other areas and doing other technology as well. But also they know, as Harley Davidson, they can draw on that technology from Livewire and start incorporating it into the Harley Davidson vehicles, but also other projects as well. Here is Energica, and what they've done, they've actually started to use their powertrains, their motors, their engines, if you will, their motors, and they're going to go into all electric light aircraft as well, which is an interesting thing. Obviously now it's in the concept phase, but go read it out. There's two light aircraft, one of these sporty aircraft, which they call, or leisure aircraft, which they want to put these motors into there as well. I never thought I'd see the day where you have electric and motors, but I suppose there's no reason why not. This is obviously, they're going to have to overcome the weight of the batteries and everything like that. So it'd be interesting to see, as these are developed, what the range is, what the endurance is, that kind of thing. The endurance, in other words, is how long are they going to be able to fly for. So it'd be very interesting what kind of aircraft. But also, we're going to think about aviation in terms of weight. So you don't, just like anything, you want to reduce the weight as much as possible. And if you've got a power plant here but relies on heavy batteries, then you've got to develop technology which makes the batteries a lot lighter, but develop more power as well, okay? Or, more current, as it were. Okay, here's the story. If you've been on social media, if you've been on any YouTube channels or whatever, you may have come across this story from the United States, where they're on a racetrack. They're going through some, it wasn't a track day. It was actually on a racing track, and it was an ambulance that just drove across the track as they were racing. They were on the straight, and it suddenly came in front of them. One diverted it, clipped. I think one may have hit the ambulance or clipped the ambulance, I should say. The other one had to veer across it, went onto the grass, lost the bike. So both bikes were trashed. I don't think the riders were injured. But they're saying, how did this happen? Well, apparently the ambulance was taking an injured rider from their medical suite and then taking them off to hospital. But there was kind of a miscommunication of whether, the track was cold or whatever. So first of all, this is a really poor design of a track where you allow a vehicle going from a medical suite to go across the track to exit the track. That's a really bad design. Second of all, you've got a total breakdown in communication where you've got a medical vehicle, or any vehicle for that matter, being allowed to cross a track to get out, to get out or whatever. Total bonkers. I mean, obviously the usual thing. Oh, we're going to be looking at our processes and looking at our, communication SOP, standard operating procedures and all that. But essentially, it was a major screw up, and two riders could have lost their life there. Two riders easily. Just how it happened. And this is somebody was making a comment. I don't know if it's in this article or somewhere else which I read, because there's lots and lots of articles about this now. As you can say, this happened last weekend, I believe it was. But an American racer was saying this is the reason why European racers, all racers from around the world, do not want to come and race in the United States because of these systematic failures with American race courses and the blatant, I wouldn't say blatant disregard, but a breakdown. It happens. Obviously, I'm not saying this incident, but these kinds of incidents obviously happen. Well, I'm not saying on a regular basis, but they must happen obviously a lot. Whereas maybe in Europe or in other parts of the world, maybe they don't happen at the same level. But you got to be thinking, well, design of the track, the med center, and also the general procedures. And also what you're thinking, you got to be thinking, you as an ambulance driver, or you as anybody driving, you got to be thinking, are you so blinkered that you're going to just drive your vehicle across, can't you see there? You can obviously see that races are going by. Are you that out of touch with reality that you cannot see? Crazy, absolute crazy. Okay, right, here's the next story here. This is the story which I alluded to earlier on about greater tax on tyre makers, for tyres as well. It's motorcycle news. This is quite an old story now, in terms of about a week old or something like that. But obviously quite a few publications are coming out with the story. It's not just UK, it's Europe as well, but they're looking at this. Here's the story which I released a couple of weeks ago now, maybe, I don't know, something like that, about Harley Davidson. This is more and more articles, so many more articles now about the Harley Davidson CVOs, Road Glide CVO and the Street Glide CVO, to name two, where they're going to come out with the 121 engine. Nothing's been announced by Harley Davidson. Of course, there's nothing in the press releases. There's nothing out there at all. But obviously, this is leaked photos of this. And then there's obviously lots of speculation trying to break down what's actually on the motorcycles from the pictures. Go find an article. You'll read lots of it as well. You'll see it there. But essentially, we're kind of expecting here. This is not a prediction. This is kind of what I've been told, as it were, whispered to. April. Look out for April, May for these to come out. A couple of these articles have also said, it kind of stands to reason that these are going to be April, May. It would stand to reason that these would be an April, May release of these CVOs, because then you got the rest of the riding season. They could release them possibly August, September, let's say, October, but then it's too late for the riding season. If you want to make, how expensive these are going to be, I mean, who knows? They could be really expensive. But anyway, just be aware that Harley Davidson, with this motorcycle, the CVOs, which we're all wondering, where the hell are Harley Davidson CVOs, the rest of them, right? Well, the 121 engine, cubic inch engine, there's a couple of other changes. There's new fairing. If you watch my previous video and everything, and or little shorts, I talked about this as well. So just go on to that. But that's coming quite soon. Okay, here's a very brief story here. This is something I thought was really cool. The Italian Motorcycle Federation establishes a historical photographic and video archive of people in motorcycling, just general public, whatever. And I thought it's the Archivo Storico Federmoto. This is basically the for the Italian Motorcycle Federation, which is Federazione Italiano Motociclismo or something like that. It's what it is. Anyway, so there's a story right apart. I just think it's really nice that they're documenting. They're going to have a photo video archive of people, and I think you can submit your photos to it as well, which I thought was good. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure. I'm not 100% sure whether any other country has done this to date. They may have done, but I'm not 100% sure. But go read the article. Quite interesting. Okay. Here's another story here. I covered this on my website as well. But MASH Motorcycles, the French European design house of motorcycles, but they've got Chinese manufacturing, of course. Their founder, Frederic Fourgeau, I think that's how you pronounce it, Fourgeau, he died this last week. And again, repeating theme, he was apparently working in his workshop on a racing car or something, and one of the tires he was inflated exploded near to him. Whether it's debris from the tire that's hit him, whether it's just a concussion injury, whether it's caused him to fall back and hit his head, there's no specifics on the nature of why he passed away, unfortunately, but he did. So he was the founder of MASH Motorcycles. He was the one of the leads of the SEMA, which is the Society of Importation of Motos and Accessories into France as well. So it's a very sad tale, because I actually quite a thing for MASH Motorcycles as well, and I've talked about them quite a lot in the past. So go read that story if you're interested. Okay, so let me just talk about this. Right. So that's it. There's more news than I thought there was, really. That's a lot more, a hell of a lot more than I thought it was. But listen, what do you think of that? I mean, there's lots of stories there. I could go on and on and on and pick it out. And each one of those stories, no doubt, you could dig into a lot more and discuss a lot more. But obviously, I wanted to talk about this main story tonight as well. Okay, the main story, the main bit. If I can find it, where is it? Here we go. There we go. Right, let's get into the biker glory stuff, shall we? Let's do it. Okay. Let's now, Where are you? Where are you, little fella? There we go. Right. So, Harley Davidson. Harley Davidson. Let us know your thoughts. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, in the chat below. If you're watching, how many people are watching? Let's have a look. Do I have much? I've got a few people watching. That's great. So, Harley Davidson and the like. We know they sell expensive motorcycles, right? And we've always kind of said, you know what, you're taking it away from the common man, and woman, I should say, and woman, and them or they, right? I want to cover all bases here. I don't want to be I got to maintain my wokeness here, right? But Harley Davidson, we've always said that they're just out of touch with the common man. They're out of touch with selling to people who just can't afford these sorts of bikes anymore. They can't afford these kinds of really high prices. This year was just a ridiculous thing, and it just got. It's just getting worse and worse, isn't it? Now, we know inflation's gone up and prices gone up and all that sort of stuff. But maybe they're just doing it on purpose, and maybe the financial institutions of this world like Harley Davidson for doing it, because it's, hey, we're playing to the rich crowd, and that's what's going to keep this company afloat. That's going to bring them millions and millions of billions of dollars, right? So I'm going to bring you a story here. This is from Invez.com. Invez.com is like one of these financial stocks and shares type of companies, right? And most of these financial stocks and shares articles on Harley Davidson, let's say in the last 8 months, maybe longer than that, have basically been very buoyant, very bullish, as these people like to say, and say, oh, look how well Harley Davidson doing. Oh, stock prices have gone up and all this sort of stuff. And, so it's, there's a contradiction here, but, we'll talk about this. But, I don't want to really talk about Harley Davidson specifically, but here is an example where you can talk about them specifically in this, targeting the rich and just setting aside, ostracizing, maybe that's a bit harsh really, but really not making these bikes, these vehicles for the common man, or certainly the motorcycles that we would like for the common man or woman or them or they, right? Okay, so here, Harley Davidson, talk about the stock, and they're saying Harley Davidson's stock is inexpensive. So it's basically gone up to $39 right now. I think it went to a high of over $50 earlier in the year. And they're saying, look, it's a good one to hold. It's a good one to get into, because they're saying very bullish here, very bullish, right? They're going to say, because although they think there's going to be a downturn in the market and manufacturers are going to suffer in terms of trying to sell bikes, right? And I'm going to quickly show you other stories where they're saying that the motorcycle sales have gone down from Harley Davidson, and I've talked about this in the past. There's also been other stories this week, like this week, of first quarter results of many motorcycle manufacturers who are selling larger motorcycles. This has got to be said, that their first quarter results are a lot lower. They're also saying that national sales of motorcycles and scooters is down 7 to 10% or something on last year. Now that's okay. You always know that motorcycle sales during the winter months in the northern hemisphere are always going to be down. Of course, but if they're down 10%, let's say 7-10% on last year, that's a like for like, so that's a big difference. And the reason is that, as I've always keep on telling people, and I always say to you guys, they say this is not about motorcycles, which is best, which is worse, which is to your liking. This is purely about whether people can afford or will want to buy a motorcycle in the face of other rising costs, dramatic rising costs in some cases in terms of food, energy, housing, insurance, whatever. Everything's going up and up and up. Inflation in this country, This country, UK, has just gone over 10% for the last quarter, right? Last few months. They've just put up the interest rates to 4.5% now. Things are going up and up and up at a dramatic rate. Yeah, I'm really starting to think things through here as well. That's not sure. So what's happening is that, you know, the finance people, let's say, they're saying, oh, Harley Davidson's been generating more and more business over the last year, and they're projecting forward. They're going great and great, and yeah, it's all coming off, and Harley Davidson are doing this, and Harley Davidson do that. But you know, they're also saying here that the spin-off company Livewire, hey, they're currently up. Their stock is up 25%, but compared to the start of 2023. The problem is they're up 25%. They don't tell you this is because they tanked within a month or so of their release in the last quarter. But here's the interesting thing here. So look, at Harley Davidson stock is inexpensive to own. At about 8 times forward, Jonas says the Harley Davidson stock is inexpensive versus its historical valuation, especially considering its free cash flow yield and top line growth. Right, basically, in other words, they're saying they're getting better dividends as short the stockholders, the shareholders, are going to get better dividends as well. But they're also saying that it's been rising, but also, even though it's come down from its high of a stock price of $50 or $52 or whatever it is, it's still a good bet. And the reason here, it says, more importantly he expects its multiple to hold better amidst the looming economic downturn. So in other words, what it's saying is it still thinks its stock price and the valuation and its performance is still going to do better than other companies that are going to face in the same economic problems and as the rest of us, right? As the company serves a higher quality consumer. This is the basis of what I've seen quite a few times in this pumping up of Harley Davidson and companies like that are selling expensive products, right? They're saying we can justify, this is a justification, because all we're doing now is targeting a high, go that way, yeah? There we go. A high quality consumer. High quality consumer. That's all they're going. And it just goes on more and more and more. The reason why I wanted to draw this to your attention, it's not just one article, right? By no means is this just one article. There are lots of articles here. There's lots of magazines, publications, finance analysts who are bumping up, inflating Harley Davidson. And they think, whoa, Harley Davidson their stock is rising, right? Their stock is rising. And then we see other companies that are investing in them, right? Here's another one I'm going to show you here. Here's another one. Harley Davidson shares acquired by Wedge Capital Management, LLPNC, right? Another one. And they've basically increased their shares. They've increased them by 9,840.7 during the fourth quarter. So the institutional investor owns 784,620 shares, but then they've acquired another 776,000. So that's, what's that, over 1.4 million shares, and their worth, right, of shares is 32,640,000, right? But that is, guess what, 0.54 of Harley Davidson worth, right? But we know, and even the zeitgeist himself, the Jochen Zeitz, they said the value of a Harley Davidson is misleading because of the rising and falling stock prices, right? It can be wiped out overnight, or it could get hyperinflated. But what these analysts keep on telling you is that Harley Davidson's doing great. Harley Davidson's doing great. The stock price, Harley Davidson's doing great. Fantastic. Oh, we've got the summer coming up and people are going to be buying all these bikes. But they're basing all this on how they've performed in the past. And whilst they're acknowledging that it's going to be tough times for a lot of people, they still think that the high quality consumer is the one that's going to keep Harley Davidson going. And these high quality consumers are going to be immune from inflationary pressures. I just don't believe it. That's the thing. I just don't believe it. I don't believe if you're going to rely on these, what we call, they're not rich people in terms of obscenely rich, got billions and billions of pounds or dollars, shekels. But what they are people who have very good salaries, let's say decent salaries. But that middle ground, people are still affected by other things, because it's not just one big ticket item that they have. They may have a nice big house, but they have a huge mortgage. They have kids going to college and all that. So their expenses, people who have high incomes also have high expenditure as well. And it may be something that they think, you know what, everything's going up and up, I have to cut myself down. And also their incomes may be affected as well. This is not just something that affects the poor, let's say, or the people who are on lower incomes. This affects everybody until you reach over that threshold of people who are earning hundreds and hundreds and millions of dollars a year that can afford it. But that's a very small percentage of people who are buying Harley Davidson motorcycles. Most of those sort of higher end people are only buying either, they might be buying those bikes. It's a very small percentage. It's the middle ground people that can afford motorcycles, and it's whether they're going to win into to do it. There we go. Right. Camilo Bustamante Haba. Hello. But Harley gives a lot of facilities to buy a bike. I mean, yes, they do. They give you options, I suppose, but they are still expensive. But, if you're talking about they give you, finance deals and everything, those are a lot more expensive now. So again, it depends. If you can afford it, great. But what I'm saying here is that the finance people are saying that you have to be, or the reason you're going to be the company is going to do better and continue to do better is because it's from a higher quality consumer. My question is, what does a higher quality consumer mean? Just because you have money in your pocket, or just because you can afford a finance deal, does that mean you are higher quality? You are of higher quality. You are better than somebody who's either not prepared to pay that money or just cannot afford it. Right? Is that what we're talking about? Now, in all fairness, let's just call it as it is. This is not a Harley Davidson statement, right? This is not a Harley, just in case somebody comes out there and says, no, this is about how they're perceived in the finance world, and also how they're perceived within the customer base as well. Premier brand. They've been Harley Davidson have been declaring themselves a premier brand for a long time. They've cut out the cheap, not cheaper, they've never been cheaper, cheaper entry level bikes for the Western markets, right? Because they just want to sell these big expensive motorcycles. Hold on, you say. Because, hey, Alf, you've been telling us about these cheap Chinese Harley Davidsons. Yes. And guess what? To my horror, they haven't promoted them. They haven't done anything with them at all in the Western markets or any of their media whatsoever. apart from for the Chinese market, because that's only where it's going to be sold, for the Chinese market. So you say, oh, well, hold on a minute. What about the rest of the people? We say, well, go and buy a used one. Go and buy a second-hand used Harley Davidson, which are the prices are going to be high in there. But it doesn't, regardless, it doesn't make a difference that you're going to, if you want a new Harley Davidson experience or a nearly new Harley Davidson experience, you're going to have to be a higher quality consumer. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, Camilla, Bustamante. Yeah, they are more expensive, yes. I know there are always cheaper alternatives. I know that. And this is not the point of this particular discussion. But it's really how, I suppose, it's about the perception that these types of vehicles, I suppose it's confirmation. It's confirmation that these vehicles are only for those who can afford it. Those who can afford it, those who are in a better social position. The wording from some of these articles is, for me, it's a little bit alarming. And they're fueling this good vibe about Harley Davidson. They're saying that these articles and these analysts, I never really trust anyway. Because I think there's a lot of falseness about it. And they kind of go all sheepish, and they're all kind of, very quiet, let's say, when the company is not doing very well at all. But as soon as there's a wave to be ridden on, all of a sudden they say, yeah, let's get into ride this wave. And then all of a sudden, when it suddenly collapses, they're like, oh, okay, yeah, they're not doing very well. Now, I'm not saying that Harley Davidson not going to do very well, but what I'm saying, if they're pinning their hopes of a company on only high quality consumers, which they're calling, then I think there's a problem here. Dave's Classic Cars, hello. Greetings from Pennsylvania, USA. Alf. Hello. Thank you for joining. I know you're a regular visitor as well. Thank you very much. Harley Davidson is definitely pricing the middle class consumer out of their brand, unless you want to get in debt for years and years. Absolutely right. And here's the thing here. There's always been, this is very much an American take on this, right? But I've heard repeatedly say, they've taken Harley Davidson out of the reach of the blue collar worker and put it into the reach of the white collar worker. And that's true. For new motorcycles, this is right, or nearly new, right? They've taken it out of the. That's not to say that blue-collar workers don't own Harley Davidsons. Of course they do. I'm not saying that. But they're going to be older machines, right? Tend to be. You're going to be older machines. If you want to buy one for years and years, you're going to have to save it for years and years and years. And you can do it. Now, finance deals have been able to offset that, not just in Harley Davidson or in the United States. This is all over the world. Here in the UK, massive issue, right? But you're absolutely right. It's the middle classes, those middle income people who have been spending. People on low incomes are not big consumers. They're not consumer people, right? In terms, because they can't afford it. They are, because of course everybody's a consumer, but not at that level. People who are at the higher level, in terms of the billionaires and multi-millionaires, they are consumers, but they are consumers of very specific products, right? Or products that are so far out of reach. They'll buy a dress for $30,000. They'll buy a suit for $40,000. They'll buy a bespoke car for $1 million, $2 million. They'll buy a yacht. They'll buy a mansion here and there. Do you know what I mean? So it's those kind of people. They're not high-level consumers. Sorry, they are high-level consumers of very high-level products, but they're not buying in numbers. They're buying one-off payments, let's say, right? The consumers, the high-level consumers, are not high-quality consumers. High-level consumers are people in the middle classes, people who get a bit of money and they spend it. They get a bit of money and maybe a bit more money, and they spend it. They try and spend it on improving their life, right? That's what the middle class is all about. You spend. You buy things. You show what what you've got, and you start buying toys for yourself. We start buying things to improve your life. That's what happens when you get more and more money. You buy things to improve your life or your family's life or whatever it is. When those middle classes, those middle consumers, they start to feel the pinch because they're the ones who are buying your products, right? This is what I've always said time and time again. And what these finance people and what these lots of these articles and the supporters of Harley Davidson, right? And you know who you are out there, the supporters of Harley Davidson who think, and the supporters of the dealerships who are just going along with these high prices and everything like that. I'm not saying it's not a criticism in terms of a personal criticism, but it is a statement of fact that everybody keeps on wanting to sell these big expensive motorcycles. It's on the basis, right, that you think that people are still going to want to do it. And you're right. There are always going to be people out there who are wanting to do it. But it's the numbers. It's the numbers, and it's always a numbers game. Always a numbers game. So let me just show you another story here, right? It's another story here. Here's I forgot what it is, right? This is from motorcyclesdata.com. I kind of look at them from periodically. Nice little story here about 2022 Harley Davidson. I kind of touched on this, I think 2-3 weeks ago maybe. If you watch my channel, you'll know I kind of talked about it. And I talked about the relative sales of Harley Davidson in recent years. And I could have gone into it a lot more depth. But basically, Harley Davidson's sales, motorcycle sales, have been dropping for years. They've been getting for years. Okay, you've got to discount the COVID year, 2020, I believe, because that was a rough year for everybody. And subsequent years, supply chain issues, all that kind of stuff. But still, they're less and less. But there's an odd thing right now. There's an odd thing the last year, especially, that Harley Davidson have had less sales, but they've had certain increases in certain markets, but most of all, the drop sales, not by much, granted, not by much, but they've increased their overall profits and everything because of, other products that they're selling, like merchandise and finance and everything like that. And one of the reasons is because of rising costs and rising things that rising prices that they've been able to charge for motorcycle, for parts, for accessories, but also for finance products. To a point. Now, I'm reading articles on a regular basis where they're saying, well, actually, this year, 2023, already they're seeing 7, 10, 15% drop, 20% drop in sales of products right across the board, motorcycle products, car products, whatever it is. They're seeing big changes here already because we've gone through a hard winter in terms of inflation. And here in the UK, for example, this may not be reflected in other parts of the world. So you may be looking in the United States or wherever, or in Australia, and you think, right, it's going up, but it's still not that bad. The problem is it's about time. This is a time scale thing. If we've only been doing it for rising prices for 3 or 4 or 5 months, people have been able to absorb that. And this is what I've said this last year. Watch out. You can have all this hyperinflation of a brand and saying how good it is, but you haven't ran the whole race yet. You've had a great start off the blocks, but this is not a sprint. This is not a 100-meter dash. Okay, you're not going up against Usain Bolt, right? You're going up against the marathon runner. I can't think of a well-known marathon runner for that, right? But you're going up against an Ethiopian who's just going to keep on running and running and running, and just keep on going until and there, you at 5 kilometers, that's it, or 10 miles or whatever it is, that's it. You shot loads, you're done. You've hit the wall, that's it. You're out of there. Where they just keep on running. This is the same analogy you could use for motorcycle companies that are doing really, really well, or have been doing really well. Stock prices doing really well. Everybody's saying, yeah, how great they are. Fans are saying how great they are, but yes, they're expensive, but how great they are. But how long can this go for? How long this go for? And how long can they do this? Not just Harley Davidson. I want to make this perfectly clear. Not just Harley Davidson. Any company that can charge these kind of hyperinflated prices, how long can they rely on the middle income purchasers, the middle income consumers, to keep on buying them? And how long can analysts and supporters still consider the middle classes as high value consumers? Was it high value consumers? What was high quality consumers? Higher quality consumers. Yeah. Because what's going to happen, as I fear, this is going to push the middle income people to they once were higher quality consumers, but now they're going to be lower quality consumers, or they're just going to be reduced consumers, full stop. We see it all the time. I've tightened my belt, as a family, as friends, as people we know, we've all tightened our belts. We know this is happening. And, we're starting to see the effects of it on a kind of regular basis. And it does happen. It does happen. And when, people can absorb inflation. They can absorb it to a point. But they will stop buying these items. So, as I say, this is not a case of people misunderstand me when I say I don't want Harley Davidson as a company to be have a problem here or anything like that. But nothing like that at all. But what I want is Harley Davidson to make themselves appealing to people who cannot afford all their motorcycles, and I've wanted them to do this for a long time. They just haven't been able to do it. Other companies like the Hondas of this world, which people don't like to hear me when I say it, but Hondas, Kawasaki's, all the Indian motorcycle manufacturers, not Indian motorcycle, the ones from India, Chinese motorcycle manufacturers, the ones who are offering cheaper motorcycles, even the likes of Triumph, BMW, they offer cheaper alternatives. They might be lower cc, smaller cc, but they're offering people who have motorcycling interests a way to get onto the road for a lot cheaper. Harley Davidson don't do that. Indian, for the most part, they do a little bit, but they don't, not so much. But the boutique brands like MV Agusta, other bigger brands like Ducati, they don't really do it either. They're all expensive motorcycles. And the problem is they've done well. They've done well the last couple of years. And, in rising prices and rising income and all that. But can they keep on doing it? And my contention here is that you're building up this picture of what everybody wants a motorcycle, a sort of Harley Davidson owner to be. They want them to be this higher quality consumer. That means that you, as an individual, you've got to only want to buy higher quality or higher priced. There's a difference. If you want to buy higher quality, that may mean that you're buying a higher quality product in terms of it's a better quality, better made, better performing, all that sort of stuff. And you're going to have to pay more for it. However, what they're talking about here is a higher quality consumer. In other words, it's not the consumer who wants to buy higher quality products. It's just a consumer who's willing and wanting to pay more for a product. That's what they're talking about here. A higher quality consumer. In other words, if they're still the consumers, but we want them to be a quality consumer. In other words, somebody who's willing to spend more and more. And those people, I believe, are going to be reducing in numbers. They'll still be there, of course, they'll always still be there, but the numbers are going to be reducing. And certainly the ones who are in the Harley Davidson target hair, as it were, they're the ones that are going to be out the door for new motorcycles. Now, does this mean that Harley Davidson are going to struggle as a company in terms of, Harley Davidson, the motorcycles as a brand, is going to diminish? No, of course, I'm not saying that at all. But what I'm saying is that I think it's just, for me, it's kind of a realization that actually, no, everybody's in on this. They're all in on this. They're all in on this game, this illusion to say that companies like Harley Davidson and Indian motorcycles to a certain degree, possibly, and Ducati and places like that, and they're selling expensive motorcycles, and yes, because they are for the discerning client. They are there for those who really know what they're talking about. No, actually, in this case, it's for the discerning client with a big wallet, with a deep pocket. It's not even a discerning client, a customer. It's for a higher quality consumer. And all they want is a consumer who's willing to pay more. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they're wanting more, that they're wanting better quality, they're wanting a better product. But if you're telling me that for a motorcycle that hasn't really changed anything from its base model, but you're going to charge $50,000 for other parts of the world, here in the UK, for a colour change and a badge change, you're going to charge an extra £5,000, dollars, shekels. That is not you as a company, even as a company now. This is where the criticism comes. Even as a company, are saying to your customer base, hey, we value you as a customer. We value you as a customer who want a good deal. We're not saying that to you anymore. We're saying to you as a customer, you have to be able to play our game, and you have to be able to be that higher quality consumer who's not even going to be blinking to when we charge you that money. This is it. Now, who makes the prices? Who dictates the prices? Well, it's a company, right? The companies, the manufacturers. They decide what the retail price is. Now, obviously, you can say, well, hey, we can't produce this product for cheaper because it's, got to be British made or Italian made or German made or American made, and these things cost a lot more money. Well, yeah, there is that. There is that. And the quality product, yes, and all that kind of stuff. I completely agree. There is that. But it's the question, how much? How much is this quality when there are other products that are out there that are a lot cheaper? I wouldn't say a lot cheaper. We're not talking a third of the price. I'm not talking half the price. But they're, 5, 6, 7,000, 8,000, 10,000 pounds, dollars, shekels cheaper. So what does that tell you? They tell you that other companies can do this. There are other companies that move away from the restriction of having, just all their products made and sourced locally, let's say, and they do operate on a global level. Harley Davidson operates on a global level. They have manufacturing plants all over the world. They have manufacturing plants for European market in Thailand, right? So why is it that the products coming from Thailand to here cost so much more? Yes, we've got import duties to deal with, but hold on a minute. We pay in pounds what you guys pay in dollars. So we're paying sometimes in the region $5,000-$10,000 US dollars more than what you're even paying for. Why is it that in the US, for example, you have a sales model, a dealership model, where the dealership can add so much more thousands of dollars onto the price of a purchase? We find that really odd here. We find that really alien. So how can you do that? And then you're expecting people to bend over and take this and want to buy your product. Because why? Because the manufacturer, the dealerships, the salespeople, and the fans of the brand who will never have a bad word said about the brand, or YouTubers out there who will never say a bad word about a brand, because guess what? They want to have their chance of being an ambassador for Harley Davidson or Indian or KTM. They want to have their chance to be able to make videos on the brand new Indian or the brand new, Harley Davidson or the brand new BMW. And they're never going to say to you guys, this is absolutely ridiculous that people are wanting to pay this amount of money for this motorcycle. Right? Guess what? The higher quality consumers, which they're now talking about in terms of, we're not talking about middle classes now. We're talking about, we're talking about people with even more money. It's that next step of person, Jerry, good evening. Hello. Been buying bikes since the 60s. Prices are out of control. I love that emoji face. How did you get that emoji face with the little moustache on it? Yeah, very indeed. But you're right. It's look. Let's be clear about this. Prices are out of control for many or certain motorcycles and motor cars, right? They're out of control. They're crazy for what they are. But this is why I like to highlight the motorcycle brands. Yes, there might be, they have rising costs, there's no doubt, but they're able to offer you much cheaper motorcycles out there. If your ambition is to ride motorcycles, then you can do it still very cheaply, even with a brand new motorcycle. Well, when I say very cheaply, you can do it cheaperly. Is that word? Is that cheaperly? No, cheaply. Cheaper. You don't have to, and this is why I was saying you don't have to buy the big, and I think, when I've heard in the past where people say, oh, Harley Davidson, you just can't afford a Harley Davidson. You can't afford an Indy. You can't afford a BMW. It's almost like you're made to feel inferior. Oh, these bikes aren't for you. When you go into a dealership and it's just like, don't get me wrong here. This is not an attack on dealerships, but it's an attack on the attitude. Dealerships are there to make money. They're there to provide a service, to provide you with bikes. But dealerships have been closing, right? Harley Davidson dealerships in certain areas. Maybe some have recovered. You wonder, I was speaking to somebody the other day and they're saying a single brand dealership finds hard to earn money on its motorcycle sales, to keep all the lights on, to keep everything going, Jerry, in my days you had a choice of bikes or cars. Now people have both. Tells you a lot. Yeah, that's true. I would still say that for the younger generation who are trying to start out in this world, it's actually very hard to get on a ladder or to develop wealth. Maybe it's harder now. I don't know. It is harder. I think it is harder. But I lost my page where I had. Let's have a look here. Yeah, for some reason I've lost my page where I can show you all the comments. I do apologise for that. I'll have to rework that for the next live show. For some reason, it suddenly disappeared. But anyway, look, here's. Let me just get back onto the websites here. The other story here. Oops, don't know what's happened there. Wrong one. This is another story here. Well, not another story. This is another bit of analysis for you as well. And this is where. Oh, crikey. Oh, no, here we go. This is it. So, when you may think I just pull these statistics and everything just out of my hat, or out of, as we would say in the UK, out of my arse, right? I don't. I trust you. Trust me, I don't. So here's where they're talking about Harley Davidson in motorcycles from the United States. and it's talking about the sales and everything and how much they've earned, and and basically revenue for Harley Davidson is projected to reach 2.64 billion in 2023. Revenue expected to show an annual growth of 3.77. So they're all saying that it's going to get bigger and bigger and better and better. And a projected market volume of just over 3 billion, right? Right. So unit sales will reach 146,000 motorcycles in 2027. That's what they're saying. They're going to get showing up and up and up. Right, so, but what they're saying here, if you look at 2023, 2023, this is the current year, so you can't really take that figure, right? But this is what the projection is. 2023, they're saying 126,000 vehicles to be sold, right? 2022, last year, which is supposed to be a recovery year from COVID in 2021, but 2022, right, was 122,000. 2021 was 125,000. 2020, which is a COVID year, you have to kind of discount that, right? That is the 101,000 where they sold the least amount of motorcycles, right, in the last nearly 10 years, right? But so if you take away this 2020, last year, where they did financially a lot better, and everybody's saying they're great, was their lowest sales figures for over 10 years. Over 10 years. This is where it is. It just goes on and on and on, right? And this is where you can take statistics and to make them and turn them into whatever you want. But you've got things to say. There are contradictions here. There are contradictions where you're saying, well, you're selling less motorcycles, but if you sell less motorcycles but you charge more for them, and you sell finance products that charges more for people to buy the motorcycles or repay the finance deals, that means extra income. If you're charging, everything's going up and up and up. Parts and accessories are going up and up and up. And we'll keep on saying there's a shortage. That's why the prices are going up and up and up. And that might be the case. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that they're lying in that regard. But this is why the company's doing better. And this is what all these market predictions, this is what everybody's saying, this is what you get the likes of a certain YouTuber or certain this saying, hey, Harley Davidson, don't say anything about Harley Davidson because their market share has gone up 40-50% and all this kind of stuff. And so, yeah, it has, and great for looking at that. But this is where we're deep diving into here and scratching away at the surface. And my scratching away at the surface reveals to me, and maybe it's already revealed to you, that Harley Davidson are potentially going to be selling the same amount of motorcycles or less, and they've got to be careful they don't suddenly stop dropping a lot if the economy keeps on going worse and worse. That could have a knock-on effect. But even if they're selling the same or less, right, motorcycles, slightly less, but less motorcycles, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter because they're charging more for their motorcycles. They're getting more money. And not only for the American market, we're talking about the global market, and they can make a higher profit on the motorcycles that are sold in other markets, let's say for Europe, that are produced in Thailand. So this is where I have a problem. The problem is that companies like Harley Davidson are only going to be targeting those in society who are worthy of Harley Davidson, and they're only worthy because they are a higher valued consumer. I keep on forgetting what the term is. They are a higher quality consumer. But regardless, higher quality, but they are higher valued. What that means is, as I said to you, it's not about whether they value better products or they want a better deal or they're willing to pay for a better product or a more technologically advanced product. No, These are consumers who the industry feel are better or higher quality because they just will spend more. They will just spend more. And that's the bottom dollar, guys. That is the bottom dollar. That's the bottom line. Bottom line. Whatever it is. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you think. But are you a higher quality consumer? Do you regard yourself as that? I don't believe I am. I don't believe I am. I would say I am a consumer who wants higher quality. I want higher quality, or I want good quality, and I will pay for good quality and high quality up to a point. But if I can't afford it, like most people can't afford these things, let's say, if I can't afford it, then I'm not gonna be buying high quality. I may be buying lower quality or cheaper quality. I may be looking at quality that does the job, that gives me a certain sense. I will sacrifice what I ultimately wanted, but I go for something else, right? That's what I would want. Or I just go for much cheaper products, whatever. Or I just go, in terms of this discussion for motorcycles, for cars, whatever. I just will hold on to the vehicle that I've got, which I've talked about in the past as well. I won't buy a new motorcycle. I'm just going to hold on to what I've got, or I'm just going to buy a really old motorcycle and an old vehicle and just ride on that. Buy a second one. Jerry Powell. I am a poor pensioner. I would say you're a very rich pensioner. Your wealth of experience. You are a rich person, and that's all that matters. That's all that matters in my book. But I don't class myself as one of these kinds of higher quality consumers. I've never been one of those. I've never been one of those people who will just buy for the buying's sake, who will pay whatever it is and not really think, am I getting a good deal here? Am I getting a value for money? And it doesn't matter. If I went and spent, if hypothetically I had the money to go and spend 50, 60, 80,000, 100,000 pounds on some kind of vehicle or some kind of, I want to know that it is second to none at that price, right? But many people won't. But it comes back to how many of those people who are willing to pay these extra money, how much of them are willing to pay for it, but also how many of them are willing to stay on this track and stay playing this game for the next few years. Because logically, if you're looking at a higher quality consumer who's going to want to keep on spending this money, that means that you expect them to continue to want to keep on spending more, keep on paying more, all that sort of stuff, Hey, let us know what you think. Let us know what you think. Are they out there? Are the people out there? If you watch some other YouTube channels, you might say, especially ones for the Americans, they say, there's been a constant thing over in recent years where they criticize Harley Davidson for going against the blue collar worker and going towards the white collar worker and going towards the dentists and the accountants and there's nothing wrong with dentists and the accountants. There's nothing wrong with them, right? But obviously these are higher earners. Motorcycling became cool. I was of an era when I grew up where it wasn't cool. It was cool for us. Don't get me wrong, it was cool for us. Cool for us kids, wanting to get into motorcycle. But in social circles, it wasn't cool. Riding a motorcycle meant that you were a dirty, what we call them over here, a dirty, greasy biker, right? People didn't like you growing up as a motorcyclist. There was always thinking you were dirty, greasy, you're into heavy metal, you're into motorcycle clubs and all this. Okay, maybe in the area which I grew up, right? But it was always this case of, motorcycle, dangerous, horrible things, But then it started to become popular. It started to become where people could buy them as toys. Sports replica bikes came on. That attracted different types of people who were, into, They want to spend more, wanted to go fast. So it changed. The dynamic changed. But motorcycles became, I've always said this in the past as well, big thing here. Motorcycles became reliable. More and more, increasingly reliable. You didn't have to, they weren't going to break down, and you weren't required to fix them on the side of the road. You didn't have to have any motorcycle mechanical engineering experience or ability to be able to try and fix things, right? Society has changed completely like that. Motorcycles have now been designed in the fact that you can't really do anything with them on the side of the road. Cars is exactly the same. You need to take it to the specialist, or you need to be able to get it back to your own workshop and hopefully figure it out for yourself. To do it on the side of the road is very difficult, right? So the landscape, motorcycle ownership, automobile ownership has changed. So now it became a lot cleaner. It became a lot cleaner pastime. When I was growing up, even now, I work. My jeans are always oily and stuff. I get handed, it's just the way it is. Bit of a dirty bugger when it comes to working on bikes. But that's why we were called dirty, greasy bikers, because we were always, wiping up and on our hands and off we go, fixing things. Well, if you don't need to fix things on the side of the road, you can wear your best clothes and everything. You can ride around, whatever, and you can, more and more people, more and more affluent people got into it. More and more women got into motorcycling as well. It's a fact. It's a fact. The one of the greatest, the largest riding demographics to grow. The growth has been women riders in recent years, in the last sort of 15, 20 years. So that's great. It's fantastic. But the image has changed, and with that image, has allowed motorcycle manufacturers to appeal to white collar workers, white collar people, white collar workers, the middle classes who are not necessarily, hand labourer workers, let's say. They work in offices, they work in finance, they work in whatever, That's a white collar worker, right? Everybody has them. So all of a sudden it's changed. Now that's not to say that these people are not motorcycle enthusiasts and real avid bikers and everything like that. Far from it. But what this means is that then they are a different breed now. That's it. They're a different breed. Different type of people. Jerry, in my early days, myself and my mates were showerless. That's right. Yeah, well, yeah, that's true. Yeah, you're correct. Bikers smell nicer now. Now worrying nice. Oh, do you like smelling bikers, dear? But look, yeah, it's the same. The demographics has changed. Everything's changed. And with that, the companies like Harley Davidson, but other companies as well, they've been able to produce more technologically advanced bikes. Yes, some may say too far. They've gone too far. Same with cars. Too far now. Too technologically advanced. You're losing, especially for motorcycle, you're losing that thrill of riding when they've got so much electronics, traction control, cornering ABS, all this sort of stuff, anti-wheelie, that kind of thing. The levels of suspension and braking and everything, the way you roll on throttle, the power delivery, the power supply, and all this sort of stuff. The smoothness of a bike as well. It's almost like you're losing that feeling of riding. And it'll always be there, but it's a different sensation. When you add up all the factors, this is what lets finance analysts and companies like Harley Davidson say, we don't need to sell to the likes of you and I anymore. They don't need to sell. All they need to do is sell to the higher quality consumer. And that's it. That's all they need to do. They need to sell to the higher quality consumer. What can I say? Anyway, listen, guys, it's been emotional. And I'm hoping you are all qualities of higher content. You are my higher quality consumers, but the great thing is that it's all for free here for you guys. It's all for free. You're beginning to sound like Rossi pertaining to electronics. Well, I taught him everything he knows. You know, we're both Italians. You know, we taught him everything he knows. Rossi, me and Rossi, me and Valet, like that, all like that. Which one of the two? Me and that, like that. Yeah. But anyway. But all I'm saying, look, this is what I'm saying. It just alarms me when there is a reinforcement. I suppose that's the word I've been looking for this whole live stream, and I couldn't remember. This reinforcement of a notion that you can only qualify to be a Harley Davidson rider if you are of a certain social standing, of a certain income, and that you're willing to pay for it. And that the companies and the finance people think that you are this higher quality consumer, and that it doesn't mean you're a better consumer. It means you're a consumer that will want to buy a higher priced product, regardless of what it is, regardless of what the alternatives are there. And this, I suppose, this is what alarms me, upsets me, but also makes me sit up and take notice, and hopefully you'll sit up and take notice as well, that this is the game. This is the game. This is the game that, you know, that they want you to play. Now it's up to you whether you want to play it. It's up to you whether you want to get your chess pieces out and start, you know, moving your queen around, moving your knight around. Knight takes pawn and all that. Well, I think a lot of us, we're the pawns, right? A lot of us, we're the pawns. You know, we're the sacrificial ones. And we sacrifice our ability to be able to buy these, you know, new shiny products, you know, in favor of, well, either older products or, guess what, you know, just cheaper brands. But they're not alone. Okay, they're not alone. Other motorcycle manufacturers, car manufacturers, there's the same, you know, and we all have our place where we can go, and that's why they call them aspirational brands. And oh yeah, if you work really hard and if you earn all your money, you can come and spend it all on this aspirational brand. I'm not sure, and I've always said I'm not sure Harley Davidson is an aspirational brand though. In terms of quality, in terms of performance, in terms of technology, in terms of it's aspirational in terms of what people want to buy. They want to buy into the Harley Davidson world, into the Indian world, into the BMW world, into the Triumph world, into the Ducati world, into the Honda world of selling really expensive, you know, their top bikes like a Honda Goldwing type thing, right? But, you know, but that doesn't mean they are higher quality always. They're not higher technology always. It's just they are charging them more. They maybe cost more, yes, but they charge more because they know that some people would buy them. That's it. Are you a higher quality consumer, or are you just a consumer looking for higher quality and a better deal or better alternatives? And can companies who are looking for higher quality consumers, will they survive? Will they continue to do well this year, the next year, and the next 5 years, 10 years? Who knows what the answer is to that? Who knows? You know, if anybody knew that, then they'd all be multi-millionaires, wouldn't they? But there we go. Hey, listen, have a lovely evening, have a lovely afternoon, lovely or morning, wherever you are. I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope you enjoyed all the going through all the news items, but also listening to me rant on, ramble on about the kind of person who's going to buy these high value products. And, you know, is it you and I, or is it just somebody else? And if you can afford it, all power to you. I think it's fantastic. If you want to do it, I've never criticized anybody for wanting to buy something like this. Never. But all I'm saying is that I would suppose there are fewer and fewer of you who are doing that. And the figures, hopefully, I've illustrated tonight, and the articles which I've shown you, hopefully it demonstrates that. It's been emotional. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on another live show coming very soon. When that'll be, hey, who knows? It depends if I deem you to be a higher quality consumer or not. Catch you again. Ta-da.